Have you ever wondered if a man truly understands what he lost after a good woman walks away? Because here's the truth most people never talk about. Many men don't realize the value of a good woman when she's in their life. They notice it only when the peace is gone, the loyalty is gone, the support is gone, and the silence becomes louder than any argument ever was. A good woman doesn't just love. She brings stability, patience, emotional safety, and genuine care. And when that kind of presence disappears, it creates a void that distractions can't fill. That's when reality starts to hit. Not always immediately, but eventually. In this video, we're breaking down how men often feel when they lose a woman who was real, loyal, and deeply invested. We'll talk about regret, delayed emotions, pride, denial, and why some men come back only after it's too late. You may be surprised by what truly happens behind the scenes. If you've ever questioned whether he misses you, if he understands your worth now, or if losing you changed him in ways he'll never admit, stay with me until the end, because the final insight might completely shift how you see your past relationship. And if you're ready to choose yourself again, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and let's begin. One of the biggest misunderstandings after a breakup is assuming that if a man looks fine, acts distant, or moves on quickly, he must not care. But the truth is, many men don't show pain immediately. Not because they feel nothing, but because they often process emotions very differently. For a lot of men, the first reaction to loss is not sadness, it's distraction. Instead of sitting with heartbreak, they stay busy. They work more, go out more, talk to new people, spend extra time on hobbies, or pretend everything is normal. On the outside, it can look like confidence, but underneath, it's often avoidance. Staying occupied can feel easier than facing the reality that someone important is gone. Another reason pain doesn't show right away is pride. Many men are taught from an early age to hide vulnerability. They learn that showing hurt looks weak, that admitting emotional pain is something to avoid. So even when they're struggling internally, they may keep a straight face, stay silent, or act unaffected. What appears cold is sometimes self-protection. There's also the delayed realization factor. In the beginning, freedom can feel exciting. No hard conversations, no responsibility, no emotional pressure. But once the noise fades and routines settle, the absence becomes more noticeable. The good morning texts stop. The emotional support is gone. The comfort of being known by someone disappears. That's often when the pain begins to surface. Many men don't miss the relationship immediately. They miss what the relationship quietly gave them over time. Stability, encouragement, loyalty, someone who cared deeply even on difficult days. Those things are easy to overlook when they're present, but impossible to ignore when they're gone. This is why you should never measure your worth by someone's first reaction after losing you. Immediate silence does not always mean indifference. Quick distractions do not always mean healing. Some emotions take time to catch up, and by the time certain men fully feel the loss, the woman they underestimated has already started rebuilding her life, healing her heart, and becoming stronger without them. That can be one of the hardest realities to face. So if he seemed unaffected in the beginning, don't let that story define your value. Sometimes the deepest pain arrives later, when there's no one left to witness it and no easy way to undo what was lost. One of the most powerful truths about breakups is something many people never expect. Realization is often delayed. A man may not understand what he lost in the moment the relationship ends. In fact, sometimes he only begins to understand it after time has passed and life becomes quiet again. At first, separation can feel like relief. There may be less pressure, fewer responsibilities, more freedom, and the illusion that moving on will be easy. In those early days, distractions are everywhere. Friends, work, entertainment, new attention, and ego can keep emotions buried. It may even look like he is doing better than ever, but appearances can be misleading. The delayed realization effect begins when distractions stop working. The busy schedule slows down, the excitement fades, the temporary attention loses meaning. That's when the emotional silence starts speaking. He notices no one checks on him the same way. No one understands his moods without explanation. No one offers the same loyalty, patience, or emotional consistency. This is often the moment a man starts comparing what he has now to what he once had. He remembers the small things he ignored, the supportive messages, the thoughtful gestures, the sense of stability, the feeling of being cared for. Things that once felt ordinary suddenly become rare. What makes delayed realization painful is that clarity often arrives when the chance to fix things is already slipping away. The woman he assumed would always be there may now be healing, growing, and emotionally detached. She may no longer be waiting for an apology or explanation. That's why some men reach out months later sounding confused, nostalgic, or unexpectedly emotional. They are not reacting to the breakup itself anymore. They are reacting to the full weight of what they lost. If you're waiting for someone to realize your value, remember this. Delayed realization may happen, but your life should never be paused for it. Sometimes the greatest closure is knowing they understood too late while you moved forward right on time. Regret rarely shows up the day someone leaves. In many cases, it arrives later, quietly, heavily, and all at once. At first, a man may feel distracted, relieved, or convinced he made the right choice. He might believe there will always be another chance, another person, or another opportunity to reconnect whenever he wants. But regret begins the moment reality proves him wrong. It often starts in ordinary moments. A difficult day with no one to call, good news with no one who genuinely cares to share it with, coming home to silence instead of comfort, seeing other relationships and realizing what he once had was rare. These small moments can hit harder than any dramatic breakup scene because they reveal what is truly missing. Regret also grows when comparison begins. He may meet new people and discover that attraction is easy to find, but emotional safety is not. Attention may be available, but loyalty is not. Chemistry may happen quickly, but trust, patience, and genuine support are much harder to replace. That's when he starts understanding the value of the woman he took for granted. Another painful trigger is seeing her move forward. When he notices that she is healing, glowing, setting boundaries, or no longer emotionally attached, it can create a deep sense of finality. The version of her that once waited, explained, forgave, or hoped is gone, and he realizes too late that her love was never guaranteed. The hardest kind of regret is not missing a person. It's knowing you mishandled someone good. Knowing pride, immaturity, inconsistency, or neglect caused the loss. That kind of regret lingers because it cannot be blamed on anyone else. But remember this, someone else's regret is not your responsibility. Whether he realizes your worth now or years later, your job is not to stand still and witness it. Your job is to keep moving, healing, and choosing people who recognize your value while they still have the chance. One of the most confusing experiences after a breakup is when a man returns long after the damage is done. He disappears when love was available, then comes back when you finally started healing. So why does this happen? Because some men do not act when they feel loss. They act when they feel consequences. At first, many assume time is on their side. They believe you'll always be there, still caring, still available, still willing to reopen the door whenever they decide they're ready. That false confidence makes them delay growth, delay accountability, and delay real effort. They mistake your patience for permanence. Then life changes. The distractions lose their excitement. New connections feel shallow. Loneliness becomes real. The emotional support they once had is no longer there. Slowly, they begin to understand that what they left behind was more valuable than what they chased. But by the time that awareness arrives, you may already be different. Some men also come back because they finally see you thriving. You're calmer, stronger, happier, and no longer centered around them. Nothing triggers late interest faster than realizing someone can be fine without you. What they ignored when it was freely given suddenly looks desirable when it's no longer accessible. But returning late does not always mean returning changed. Sometimes they come back with nostalgia, not maturity. They miss the comfort you provided, not the responsibility required to keep a healthy relationship. They want access to the old connection without doing the inner work that caused the breakup in the first place. That's why timing matters. Love is not only about feelings. It's also about readiness, consistency, and respect. If someone realizes your worth only after hurting you, that realization may be genuine, but it may still be too late. And that's an important lesson. People can care deeply and still arrive late. You are not obligated to reopen a door just because someone finally knocks with better manners. Sometimes the greatest sign of growth is choosing not to return to what once broke you. Emotional loss is rarely caused by one dramatic moment. More often, it's triggered by memories that return unexpectedly. A song playing in the car, passing a familiar place, seeing a photo from happier times, smelling a perfume that reminds him of you. These ordinary moments can reopen emotions he thought were gone. That's because memories are tied to feelings, not just events. He may forget arguments, timelines, or details, but he remembers how your presence felt. He remembers being understood after a stressful day. He remembers laughing over something small. He remembers the comfort of knowing someone genuinely cared. When those feelings return through memory, the loss becomes real again. Many men suppress emotions after a breakup by staying distracted. They focus on work, friends, entertainment, or dating. But memory doesn't need permission to appear. It can surface in quiet moments when there's nothing left to avoid. Late at night, during a lonely weekend, on a birthday, during success that feels strangely empty because the person he wanted to share it with is gone. What makes these memories powerful is contrast. He compares how he felt then to how he feels now. If current relationships feel shallow, unstable, or transactional, the past can suddenly seem more valuable. He begins to realize that what felt normal at the time was actually meaningful. Sometimes the strongest trigger is seeing you changed, happier, more confident, emotionally distant, living fully without him. That creates a memory of who you once were with him, and a realization that version of you no longer exists. But remember, someone missing memories is not the same as someone ready for commitment. Nostalgia can make people reach out without true growth. Missing how something felt does not always mean they can protect it now. So if memories are haunting him, let them. Your role is not to rescue someone from lessons life is trying to teach them. Your role is to keep creating new memories for yourself, ones that are rooted in peace, self-worth, and people who value you in the present, not only after you're gone. After a breakup, one of the hardest things to understand is whether a man truly misses you or simply misses losing control. This is where ego and genuine feelings often get confused. They can look similar on the surface, but they come from very different places. Ego reacts to rejection, distance, and the loss of access. It becomes triggered when you stop chasing, stop responding quickly, or begin moving on. Suddenly, the person who seemed uninterested becomes curious again. He checks your social media, sends random messages, or reappears just when you're healing. But often, this response is less about love and more about discomfort. His ego is struggling with the idea that you are no longer available on demand. Genuine feelings look different. Real emotion comes with accountability, consistency, and vulnerability. It's not just, I miss you, it's, I understand how I hurt you. It's not temporary attention when he feels lonely, it's sustained effort, changed behavior, and respect for your boundaries. Genuine feelings are willing to do the work that ego tries to avoid. The ego wants reassurance without responsibility. It wants to know it still has a place in your life, even if nothing meaningful changes. Genuine feelings accept that trust may need to be rebuilt slowly, and that words alone are not enough. This is why some men return strongly for a week, then disappear again. Their ego was activated, but their emotional maturity was not. Once they feel validated, the urgency fades. So how do you tell the difference? Watch patterns, not promises. Notice whether actions continue when attention is no longer guaranteed. See if communication becomes clearer, kinder, and more stable over time. And most importantly, don't confuse being wanted with being valued. Someone's ego may want your attention, but only genuine feelings will honor your heart. If a man comes back, the question is not whether he feels something. The real question is whether what he feels is strong enough to grow into something healthy. Because emotion without growth often repeats the same pain in a new package. Not every man who misses you will say it out loud. Some stay silent because of pride, fear, guilt, or uncertainty about whether they still have a place in your life. Silence can be confusing, but it doesn't always mean indifference. Sometimes feelings are present even when words are not. One common sign is indirect contact. He may like old posts, watch your stories quickly, ask mutual friends about you, or find small excuses to reach out without saying what he truly feels. These subtle actions often reveal curiosity and emotional attachment that he isn't ready to admit directly. Another sign is inconsistency. He starts a conversation, then pulls back. He checks in, then disappears. This push and pull behavior can happen when someone misses you but lacks the courage or emotional maturity to communicate clearly. They want connection, but they also fear rejection or accountability. You may also notice emotional timing. He reaches out on birthdays, holidays, late nights, or during moments when people naturally feel loneliness more strongly. Important dates and quiet hours often bring unresolved emotions to the surface. Sometimes the clearest sign is change in tone. A man who once seemed cold may become softer, more respectful, or unusually thoughtful in brief interactions. Regret can humble people. Missing someone can make them appreciate what they once overlooked. But here's the important truth. Silence mixed with small signals is still silence. Missing you does not automatically mean he is ready, healed, or capable of building something healthy. Feelings alone are not commitment. Curiosity is not consistency. That's why your focus should remain on actions that create peace, not clues that create confusion. If someone truly values you, eventually they communicate clearly, take responsibility, and show effort that doesn't need decoding. So yes, he may miss you in silence, but your life should not be lived translating mixed signals. You deserve words that are direct, actions that are steady, and love that doesn't hide behind pride. Sometimes the strongest move is letting silence stay silent while you continue moving forward. One of the most frustrating parts of heartbreak is knowing someone hurt you, yet never hearing them admit it. No apology, no accountability, no honest conversation, just silence, excuses, or acting like nothing happened. So why does some men never admit they were wrong? For many, admitting fault feels like admitting weakness. They were taught to protect pride at all costs. So saying, "I messed up," feels threatening to their identity. Instead of facing the discomfort of humility, they avoid the conversation completely. It's easier to stay defensive than to feel ashamed. Another reason is emotional immaturity. Some people simply haven't developed the skills to reflect on their behavior honestly. They focus on what they felt, not what they caused. They remember being stressed, confused, angry, or overwhelmed, but fail to recognize how their actions impacted someone else. There's also fear of consequences. Admitting they were wrong may mean losing the image they created, facing your pain, or realizing they damaged something valuable. That level of truth can be painful. So rather than confront it, they rewrite the story in their mind. It wasn't that serious. We both made mistakes, or it just didn't work out. Sometimes silence is its own form of guilt. A person who cannot face you may already know what they did. They just lack the courage to say it. Not every unspoken apology comes from indifference. Sometimes it comes from shame. But here's what matters most. Their refusal to admit wrong does not erase the truth of your experience. You do not need their confession in order to validate what happened. You do not need their apology to begin healing. Some people grow enough to own their mistakes later. Others never do. Either way, your peace cannot depend on someone else's self-awareness. Closure often comes when you stop waiting for the words they may never say, because maturity is attractive. But your freedom begins the moment you realize accountability from them is optional. While healing for you is essential, healing after a breakup is not just about moving on from a person. It's about understanding what the experience is trying to teach you. When you look at everything we've discussed, delayed realization, ego, silence, regret, and emotional confusion, one thing becomes clear. Your healing cannot depend on someone else's awareness. What this means for your healing is simple but powerful. You stop waiting for clarity from someone who created confusion. You stop waiting for apologies that may never come. You stop waiting for validation from someone who didn't recognize your worth while they had you. Healing begins the moment you shift your focus from their behavior to your own peace. At first, this shift feels uncomfortable. Your mind may still search for answers. You may replay conversations, analyze actions, or wonder if things could have been different. But healing is not found in replaying the past. It is found in releasing your need to control its meaning. Real healing starts when you accept that someone can miss you and still not be right for you. Someone can regret losing you and still not have the emotional capacity to keep you. Someone can think about you and still not deserve access to you. These truths are not contradictions. They are clarity. What this also means is that your growth becomes the priority. You begin to rebuild your confidence, reconnect with your identity, and rediscover parts of yourself that were overshadowed in the relationship. You stop shrinking for someone's comfort and start expanding for your own life. Healing is not linear. Some days you feel strong, other days memories return. But progress is not measured by perfection. It is measured by direction. Every time you choose self-respect over attachment, you move forward, and slowly something shifts. The questions become quieter, the emotional pull weakens, and what once felt like loss starts turning into wisdom. Because in the end, healing is not about getting them to understand your worth. It's about you finally refusing to forget it. Reclaiming your confidence after a breakup is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before doubt, confusion, and emotional attachment started reshaping your self-image. Somewhere along the way, you may have started questioning your worth based on someone else's attention, consistency, or validation. Now, the process is about taking that power back. Confidence doesn't return all at once. It rebuilds in small moments. It starts the day you stop checking for their message first thing in the morning. It grows when you no longer feel anxious seeing their name or profile. It strengthens when you realize your emotions no longer revolve around their presence or absence. Reclaiming confidence also means changing the story you tell yourself. Instead of asking, "Why wasn't I enough?" you begin to ask, "Why did I accept less than I deserve?" That shift changes everything. It moves you from self-blame to self-awareness, from emotional dependency to emotional independence. You also begin to recognize your value without needing external confirmation. Your kindness, your loyalty, your emotional depth, your patience, these are not weaknesses. They are qualities that deserve reciprocity, not confusion. And when they are not matched, it reflects incompatibility, not inadequacy. Another important part of reclaiming confidence is setting boundaries. You stop entertaining inconsistent energy. You stop responding to mixed signals. You stop giving access to people who only value you in moments of convenience. Every boundary you set is a quiet declaration that your peace matters more than potential. Most importantly, you begin to reconnect with yourself, your interests, your goals, your routines, your joy. The parts of you that were once overshadowed by emotional focus on someone else start coming back into focus. And slowly, something powerful happens. You stop needing to be chosen to feel worthy. You stop waiting to be understood to feel valuable. You start standing in a version of yourself that is no longer negotiable.